All right. So crystallized omniscience onyx amulet. This is a pretty cool amulet. So the modifiers to attributes instead apply to omniscience, the first modifier right here. What this does is make sure that any sort of attribute gain that you have will no longer apply any sort of attributes to it. You will actually have 0 strength, 0 intelligence, 0 dexterity. And instead, you get omniscience stacks. And what it does is that for each 10 omniscience that you have, you get 1% plus to all elemental resistances. If you then have, it also gives you penetration of 1 elemental resistances per 10 omniscience that you have. And it also has what seems to be a non-static, dynamic modifier, being attribute requirements can be satisfied from gear that you're equipped. For example, if you look at the character I have in the anomaly I'm playing right now, this ring, no, not the ring, sorry, the shield requires me to have 79 strength because of the gem, and without the gem it requires me to have 62 strength. Now what this does, with this specific modifier being 23%, I would then have to take my 79 and multiply that by 0.23, and that means I would only need 18 omniscience. Apparently I fucked up and I did the math backwards on the omniscience stats. Apparently I fucked that up and made it backwards. So basically what I was explaining was that if you have an item that requires 79 strength, and say you have a 25% attribute requirements from the omniscience, what that would mean is that you would need stats which would cover omniscience of 79 based on that percent count. So in this case, if we have 79 strength, that is a requirement, I would need essentially 4 times that much. If we say it's 25%, that means I would need 4 times that in omniscience to get myself the requirement. So in this case, it was 79 plus times 4, which is 316. That's what I would need to be able to wear the item. So if you have an all attribute roll modifier, it seems to only give you omniscience based on how much stats you get from the all attribute roll. My first initial impression for this was that all attributes would give you 3 times the value, but that's not the case, it seems. So basically, what this means is that this will not be good for builds like int stacker, dex stacker, strength stacker that a lot of comments and people are saying. Because it seems to me that it's a situation where these things requires you to be in a position where you have those stats to stack from, right? However, this amulet seems to be a position where it's allowing you to stack attributes no matter what type it is, in a form of you allowing to be an attribute stacker, but you're not the classic int stacker, strength stacker, dex stacker. So you're an attribute stacker. There's just another way of doing that. And that seems really cool. And I like that approach to it. I'm actually very excited to see this because the speculations that we have right now in terms of this amulet seems to allow us to be in a position where we can get a stupid amount of resistances, but most importantly, the penetration of elemental resistances, which allows us to open up for a bunch of different types of builds that is penetrating elemental defenses or elemental resistances on enemies by simply just stacking attributes. So what happens on gear would be that you could look into having gear that has strength, dexterity, and all attributes as the suffix modifiers on belts and rings, for example, which you can use intrinsic catalysts on to further scale that amount of attributes that you get from those, which would then be per 10 attribute that you get from these would then be a stack of omniscience, right? And I think that's really cool. I'm actually very excited to see what people come up with this. It also seems to me, based on what GGG has been posting recently with their new uniques, that they're introducing more and more of these chase items, which I think is really, really cool. Another item we saw earlier was the melding of the flesh cobalt jewel, which seemed to be a really good thing to use in terms of resistance stack yourself up to like a high number of max resistances on one element, and because of this jewel, that would then be applied to all of your elements. However, it does give what we assume is a dynamic roll on the minus to all elemental resistances, which kind of makes people think it's better off for things like Doriani's prototype, where you only need to fix the rest on the other 2 elements that you have left, which in that case would be fire and cold. However, this new one, the Omniscience Amulet, god damn, I actually love the fact that they introduced this, because not only would this potentially be a very cool chase unique, it would also allow us to increase the value and the way we perceive items that drop that would normally have been discarded, such as an item that has intelligence, dex, and strength, but maybe not super high tier, would in this case become a lower budget investment for this amulet, unless this amulet would be stupidly expensive, upon which, you know, those items would still be useless unless they have high tiers of those modifiers. So I'm actually very excited to see what happens with this. And I'm super excited for the Archnemesis League. But yeah, I just wanted to make a quick video and talk about this amulet and how it works based on our speculations in its current state. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Bye-bye.